Yes, I'm here. I heard it all.
All right, well, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Before I even sit down, evidently. Thank you for joining us here today for the meeting of the Executive Committee of the Destination Medical Center. We do have a couple of folks that are participating virtually, and so I will ask Tammy to take the roll, and I'm going to ask you to begin by the call of the roll.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. For our roll call, we will start with Norton.
I'm just going to say Mayor Norton is traveling for business, so she will not be participating today. I think she's actually on a plane even as we speak, so.
Got it. Tyne.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Chair Wheelock.
Present. Then Member Williams, as is our practice, if you could state the reason for your virtual participation.
Travel conflict with calendar. Thanks.
Great. All right, thank you. So the three of us here in the room will hold down the fort physically, and we appreciate the participation. We do have a quorum, and so we will, though, be conducting all of our votes, as I mentioned, by roll call. So first, is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
So moved.
Second?
And I'm not an official
You're not an
member,
official
so
member. I'm
I
sorry.
cannot
Yes,
participate
that's
in any
correct,
of the
As I
votes.
keep looking at you, you would not have chaired if I were not here. So Member Williams, is there a second?
There is a second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm
Aye.
sorry, Tammy.
Actually,
Tammy.
I'll call your roll. Exactly.
Thank
Tyne.
Aye. Yes.
Williams.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye. All right, so now is there a motion to approve, Oh, I think I have that twice. So the only real item on our agenda today is the certification to deed of our report, which is due annually. So for that business agenda item, I am, for those of you who are participating virtually, I'm looking directly at our presenters. We're joined by Patrick Sieb and Cindy Steinhauser, the Deputy City Administrator, and Doug Holton, the Mayo Clinic Facilities Chair. So, Patrick, before we begin the discussion, I'm just wondering if you would, for the benefit of those listening and participating, just explain the context of this report, and we'll jump in then to your slides.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think I will just note that there was a approval of minutes to.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're
I-
right, there was an
I
approval of the
misread- I
minutes.
think,
So moved.
Second?
Moved and
Great.
seconded?
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye. Thank you, Patrick.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Back to the purpose of this meeting and the question that you asked, Chair Wheelock. Each year, we are required to present a report to the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development that documents the private investment that has taken place in Rochester, specifically in the DMC district as it relates to non-Mayo private investment, and then Mayo Clinic investment can be counted anywhere within the district and in the city of Rochester. This report is part of the process used by the state to determine the allocation of general state infrastructure aid that then is provided to the city. The formula requires qualified private investment, which is what this report is about, and city and county investment, which is a separate report. That is submitted to deed, and through a formula, it results in the release of state infrastructure and transit aid. So those, of course, those resources are the resources that this community uses to advance things like mobility, public spaces, basic infrastructure, community experience. So those are the methodology to receive the state funding to achieve those outcomes. And I could pause there if you have any questions or if you need any.
And Patrick, just for clarification, and then after the submittal, we'll receive any clarifying questions from deed and a confirmation of their receipt. Is that correct?
That's right. Department of Employment and Economic Development audits both the Mayo Clinic submittal and the city submittal sometime over the next several months. And upon their findings, then they would release payment of the resources.
Thank you.
So today's purpose is for us to present the results and for you to review and to advance those for certification. And we are thrilled and pleased to report 2025, there is documented $342 million of Mayo Clinic investment. Doug will speak to that. And then non-Mayo Clinic private investment of $5.7 million. It's reflected in this chart. As you can see, over time, the continued documentation. Again, this report looks back to the single prior year, so we're looking at 2025, and you can see just a tracking of other reports that we have submitted in prior years.
Patrick, could I just ask you to clarify for those of us and those listening? Well, first of all, it's just phenomenal. We're really seeing double the highest level for the Mayo level investment, so you can really see that things are happening, and I look forward to hearing Mr. Holton's comments. But for the non-Mayo investment, or even for the Mayo, when does it count as completion? So during the course of a 12-month period, what counts and what doesn't, depending on what work has occurred and when?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. We largely take a very conservative approach to documenting the expenditure. So while we have arrangements with deed at various stages of some projects to document progress on a project and the expenditure that has taken place. The largest amount of a project documentation is between the footings permit and then the complete build-out. And in our more conservative approach, we wait until there's a certificate of occupancy for a project to count all of that portion of the project into the figures for the prior year.
Which is typically the heaviest expenditure portion for any project.
It represents
Yeah.
probably 80% of the total project.
And is there anything about, and maybe you can get to this, is there anything about the non-Mayo investment for the prior year that would be relevant about that nuance about waiting for a certificate of occupancy?
Yes, the most significant is a project that has progressed quite well and did so without public support, known as First and Banks, which is at the location of the YMCA. For people in Rochester know that location well, at Soldiers Field. This is a private development, private investment that was nearly completed at the end of 2025. In fact, there was beginning occupancy and leasing of this 250-unit apartment building, but did not receive its certificate of occupancy. It has a temporary C of O, but did not receive its certificate of occupancy. It may be in the final stages of that, and that's about a $45 million.
So that activity that really occurred in 2025 will show up in our 2026 numbers?
That's an example,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yep.
Madam Chair, just a quick
Mr.
comment.
Williams?
Yeah, one, it is very conservative. In housing, for example, we would typically count a unit when financing closed, because that's when everybody's in financially. So I agree with the approach of waiting for a certificate of occupancy, but when you get to certificate of occupancy, that project is largely, as you said, very much closed. So it is a conservative approach.
Thank you, Patrick. I'll let you go ahead and finish your presentation before I ask you any more questions.
No, that's fair. And I think when Mr. Holton has a chance to report, he will also describe the very conservative approach they take at Mayo Clinic in documenting. The slide that's in front of you now generally presents what's coming in the future, and I'll just note that the way this is coming out is pretty washed out, so we're not seeing the intent behind this slide in that we are showing a gradient scale and it gets very washed out. So in future years, we are anticipating surpassing $500 million next year and nearly $1 billion. So again, it's not showing on this slide. I don't know if Cody, if you've been able to try to address that or.
I think we can see it better on our screens than we can on the big screen in the room, so.
Yes. So I'm saying that to anybody who's watching via video. So that's what we have. That's what we're seeing in the pipeline. And then again, in the pipeline, if we show it as a cumulative report up to date, we have $2.1 billion of private investment when we add together everything from 2013 to today. And what we are reasonably and conservatively anticipating, you can see the dotted line that really grows exponentially over the next several years. With this, I'd like to introduce Cindy Steinhauser, Deputy City Administrator, to just comment on the non-Mayo private investment.
Great. Thank you, Patrick, and thank you for having me this morning. As you see on the slide in front of you, this past year in 2025, not quite $6 million invested, but as has just been discussed, very conservative, not truly reflective of what has been onboarded in 2025, but those numbers will show up in 26. What that means is nearly $500 million, over $500 million since 2015, since DMC was established. This identified the 5 projects that are reflected, are recently completed, are anticipated, and I would note that across these 5 projects, it's literally hundreds and hundreds of housing units for the Rochester community, including affordable housing units, which is an important priority for this board. I also asked Patrick if it would be appropriate to share citywide private investment, because I think it's important to understand that while DMC has geographic boundaries, the influence and the impact of what you're doing has a citywide impact. Rochester in 2025 had a record-setting $1.2 billion in new construction permit valuation. This is our highest permit valuation year ever. And I think what this demonstrates is that the momentum in the DMC district is catalyzing investment across the entire community. The focus on strengthening the urban core supports housing and commercial investment citywide. It helps diversify our tax base. It leverages off of private other investments. What this slide tells me, coupled with the other data that DMC pulls together, is that we are seeing the fruits of the early work of DMC. It's grounded in good policy. It's grounded in a plan that's our North Star. It's grounded in creating the partnerships that we have here locally and at the state and federal levels. And now we're seeing the performance of it. Over $2 billion in private investment in the DMC district since the beginning of DMC. And I would just note that for the city of Rochester, our high five in total commercial or total permit valuation, our highest 5 years have been in the last 7 years, and 2 of those years were during COVID. So this tells us that DMC as a catalyst is not just, is truly a catalyst. It's not just the geographic boundary where the investment and the influence happens. It's happening across our entire community. And with that, I'll turn over to my colleague, Doug.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. I'm pleased to join you today to share a little bit more detail of Mayo Clinic's investment that qualifies under the DMC legislation. So in 2025, Mayo Clinic, we invested $342.3 million that has been reported as part of our DMC legislative type of investments. This is an increase of 94% over 2024. As Patrick mentioned, we're very conservative with what we put forward that we feel qualifies under the DMC reportable investments. We do a tremendous amount more work than this every year. Typical infrastructure, things like that, infrastructure work, base capital projects, that is just care and feeding of our campus. These are truly investments that keep Mayo a destination Category 1 organization. During that time also, Mayo continues to grow with new hires enterprise-wide, as well as, of course, in our Rochester campus. We've made investments in infrastructure that supports practice, staff, patients, and, of course, our community. To give a couple examples of some projects, obviously we have a lot of very visible work going on outside across the downtown campus in St. Mary's and across the city. But a lot of work goes on inside that people are not aware of. First, one of the more visible ones, the Anderson Building, which is an expansion of our proton beam therapy treatment modality on the Rochester Methodist campus. That looks complete from the outside, but right now there's a tremendous amount of work being done by Hitachi as they're installing the equipment. It takes a lot of calibration time, but we anticipate first patient to be seen third quarter of 2027. So a lot of work still going on inside that facility. Also a lot of remodeling on our St. Mary's campus, again, to keep us at that Category 1 level for our facilities with a new CV ICU unit at St. Mary's, as well as a new neonatal intensive care unit at St. Mary's. Again, top-notch facilities. You might have also seen recent communication that Ronald McDonald House also has a family room now right adjacent to the NICU, which is a great addition for patients' families. As we look into the research field, the Kellen Building was fully complete except for our fully complete in 2025, except for the 9th floor, which we are just completing construction, which will be done next month. But this building is a research building, primarily focused on cancer-related research, and one also that we designed and operate with a look towards sustainability, looking at reducing our energy use consumption by 30% with the design and the infrastructure put in place in the Kellen Building. And as you probably note, one of the more artistic buildings we have on our campus on the south end of the downtown campus.
Doug, before you move on from that
Yes.
slide, could you just elaborate a bit more about the design elements that achieve that energy reduction and the sustainability elements of the design.
Sure. So, and maybe I should start that sustainability is something we've been working on with our existing buildings for quite some time, where you go back and we're looking at, relamping, which sounds, replace lighting. Sounds like a simple thing to do, but across 18 million square feet, it takes some time, but it has great impact. Air duct sealing, that you save tremendous amount of lost air over time. And a big part is also recommissioning of our buildings, making sure that they are functioning at design in accordance with the occupants that are there. So part of the design aspect is, again, how we put together our lighting, our infrastructure, our building control systems for managing the environment based on time of day, day of week, if you will, and just other aspects of design to make sure that we are putting the right types of glass into our buildings. So for not too much heat uptake, but also for energy efficiency. So it goes into every building, every material choice we make.
Thank you.
Next on to utility plant and underground infrastructure. Obviously, this has a great impact on the downtown campus, and I truly appreciate the partnership with the City of Rochester, Rochester Police Department, and our contracting partners. So a lot of work underground, but also you may have seen quite an expansion at our Prospect Utility Plant on the north edge of campus. That building is weather tight, basic for all practical purposes right now. And we have just installed our combined heat and power turbine into that building, as well as we'll have additional chilling capacity and backup generation. So that is part of our overall microgrid on our downtown campus. So obviously that will have a great amount of help to our microgrid as it comes online in fourth quarter of 2027. And then finally, just want to mention, as I mentioned before, with the collaboration and the partnership with the city, the police department, our contracting partners, we also employ really a good neighbor policy, and we appreciate all our neighbors around us throughout the construction. We hold regular meetings with schools, churches, businesses, owners around our construction sites to try to communicate what's going on and lessen the impacts and accommodate needs as we can. And with that also, of course, our community investments in the community to local nonprofit organizations is also key and ongoing as being a good neighbor within Rochester.
Thank you.
And with that, I will turn it back over to Patrick.
Thank you, Doug and Cindy, Madam Chair, members. Just to recap, this report has a cumulative now private investment in excess of $2 billion. It has been investment in mobility, housing, and public realm, Mayo Clinic's support and investment, now twice any prior year as the Bold Forward Unbound project really kicks into gear. I mean, lots of other projects happening, but what these slides don't necessarily show is the incredible amount of excavation and site preparation for this campus expansion. I think it's important to note that you have asked us as a team to work through a set of guiding principles to ensure to optimize all of these investments. On one of the slides, you may have noticed, I don't know if Doug, you referenced it, the utility plant and the Dig One strategy. So there is a simple way of describing the way in which the city and Mayo Clinic are working and collaborating through this Dig Once mentality, this Dig Once framework, which requires almost daily meetings, probably more than that, between the teams at Mayo Clinic and the city and the various subcontractors to coordinate work in a meaningful way. And in spite of that, we will experience disruption in our community, but it's far less so because of the efforts by Doug's team and Cindy's team, and through the guidance that you have provided us. And so, with that, happy to respond to any additional questions that you might have.
Questions or comments from any of the board members present today? Member Williams.
Yeah, wonderful numbers and great report, and excited for what's coming. On your last bullet there on non-Mayo Clinic development in the pipeline, do we have any sense of kind of proportionality of that pipeline relative to Mayo's continued investments?
Well, I don't know that I can answer as a proportion. I would, and maybe I don't fully understand your question, but with respect to, for example, one key element being housing, there is a slide that Cindy presented that shows projects in the pipeline. And when we say in the pipeline, they're actively in the pipeline. They're finalizing their financing and their development agreement. But in addition to that, we are seeing hundreds of units of single-family homes in the pipeline outside of the DMC district that, as we talk to, and these are national developers who have found their way to Rochester, and as we talk to them about why they've chosen Rochester, they have said, one, we understand the growth that's happening, we understand the gap and the need that exists, and we understand the systems you've put into place to make our work more predictable and more efficient. So the UDC, for example. And then the actual evidence of Mayo Clinic Unbound happening, so seeing holes in the ground, give people more confidence that that these investments will actually see their way through. So long way of answering, we have significant amount of multifamily housing and single-family housing that is actively in the pipeline by local and national developers.
I do think that the slide that Cindy, that you shared about the valuations and the permitting process or activity outside of the DMC district is particularly helpful to expand this conversation. Because we know that, we have this artificial geography in many respects that we use as this measure, but when you have a multi-billion-dollar investment that's occurring in your community, the ripple effect of that is not going to be isolated to the blocks adjacent to where that is occurring. The other thing that I would note is so much of what we are talking about on the board is really with, thinking about the long game. And much of what we do, we expect will have positive ramifications longer term in this community. So it's not surprising to me that as we head into kind of a peak period of construction disruption, whether it's for BRT or for Mayo, many business investments will wait until either they can see what's occurring or the disruptive period is over with. And so I feel like we're putting in the building blocks and the infrastructure that will spur that future private investment. And the other is that some of what we are doing is very intentional. So the investment in biolabs, we are trying to create a brand and a reputation for this community about healthcare innovation, and those, that incubator space, if you will, we expect over the long term will produce some real winners about business development in the community. So I think it is helpful, and we are clearly complying with our statutory responsibility to track this information and provide this information. But I, for one, will be back, after another decade just to see what's occurring about the investment in this community spawned by a multi-billion-dollar investment in Mayo Clinic with support from the city and the state. Other questions, comments?
I mean, it's all good news, so it's a great meeting to be at, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Impressive numbers, so happy.
Yeah. Member Schubring?
Thank you. I just wanted to amplify what you said, Chair Wheelock, and what Mr. Siebes said. And on Cindy's slide, buried in there was the number of permits that are in the pipeline, as we said, and it's 3,044 permits. That's up 83%. And so that puts a clear point on the fact that there is a lot of primarily residential construction ready to happen. And to Patrick's point, we have three major national residential developers in our community now, and they are, one of the pieces that I look at is how well are they working through our permitting process, our guidelines, and as Patrick mentioned, the UDC really is a blueprint for the business community. They know what to expect when they come here and work with our requirements, and everything I've heard is that they are adapting quite well, and to me that says more will come. And so I'm very excited about seeing that. And then also to Doug's point, and a few meetings ago, Doug mentioned that the relationship between Mayo Clinic and the city and DMC is the best that you've seen it in your 25-year plus career. And I use that a lot in the community because I think having strong working relationships and trust and respect for each other really makes, I'm sure, your job's easier. So I'm excited to be here and can't vote on it today, but congratulations.
I will note on this slide, I also appreciate the plan review statistics, and one of the things that I think has been a tremendous benefit for the community is the thoughtfulness and the investment of both time and resources by the city in making this a more investment-friendly community and the processes around that. So the speed of the plan review is certainly one of those things that translates into real money and real opportunity for private investment. So that's fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. Now, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Tammy, would you call the roll?
If I can unmute myself, Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye. And is there a motion to adjourn? Member Tyne?
So moved.
Member Williams? Tammy?
Tyne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye. Thank you very much for being here today. This is great news and great report.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bravo. Thank you.
Once I should have highlighted that.